Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Frank Colley. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal John Edmond Connop, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal John Edmond Connop. John Edmond Connop was born in 1893 in Little River, Victoria, the second of 5 children of John and Margaret Connop. John attended school in the small town of Cockorock, and after leaving school became a farm labourer in the district. In March 1916, Connop enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force, perhaps following the example of his younger brother, Edward, who had enlisted the previous July. Connop trained at the Broadmeadows camp before sailing on the transport ship Orsiva to England. After training in England, Connop arrived in France in mid-November 1916. There, he joined his unit, the 29th Australian Infantry Battalion, in the Somme sector of the Western Front. The European winter of 1916 and 1917 was the coldest in memory, and the Australian soldiers were especially unused to the cold and wet conditions. With the transition to spring, it became apparent that the German forces had withdrawn from their forward positions to a more heavily defended line. The Australian and other British troops followed up this withdrawal in a series of large battles and smaller-scale trench raids. In early March, members of the 29th Battalion carried out a raid on the German trenches near Goerdecourt in northern France. During the fighting, Connop was wounded, suffering a gunshot wound to his back. He was evacuated to hospital in the port city of Étaples. Though stable, he required rehabilitation, and he was sent to England to recover at a convalescent camp in Dartford. He remained there for 4 months, returning to his unit in France in August 1917. In the autumn, the British commanders began a new offensive focused around the Belgian town of Ypres. During the campaign, the 29th Battalion took part in the Battle of Polygon Wood at the end of September. After the battle, Connop was promoted to the rank of Lance Corporal. In early October, Connop's unit was holding the line on the ground they had captured in September. To the north, other Australian units were taking part in a failed attempt to capture Passchendaele Ridge. The 29th Battalion sent out working parties to help construct duckboarding through the almost impassable mud and to establish defensive barbed wire positions. While moving engineering stores near Ypres, the unit came under German artillery fire. Connop, struck by shell fragments, was badly wounded. The following day, the 16th of October 1917, he died of his wounds. He was 24 years old. John Connop was buried in the Lissenhoek Military Cemetery alongside more than 10,000 burials of the First World War. His grieving mother chose the inscription for his headstone: "Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on him." John's younger brother Edward also served in the AIF, fighting with the 7th Battalion. He too was wounded during the Ypres campaign and died of his wounds 5 days before John. Lance Corporal John Edmond Connop is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal John Edmond Connop, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.